Hello BookTube. Today I wanted to talk about my library. So earlier in the year I did a 2023 library tour. Um, it was long and exhausting, and it brought home something that I've been thinking about for a while, and that is what books do I have in my collection and what do I want my collection to be in the future? Um, and I've been thinking about that since then. So these are some of my thoughts. Hopefully this video will go up. I tried to make a video talking about my library yesterday and it didn't quite work out. So if it doesn't work out today, I might try to do an alternative. Although if you see this video up, then you'll know that this video was a success. So as I did my library tour, my collection was broken up by genre, as it still is, although in a different configuration. So I had my cookbooks in the living room, where basically it's like an open concept living room kitchen area. So the cookbooks are where they should be. My writing and art books are at my desk. The manga was split between my headboard bookcase and the bookcase that my brother built a few years ago for me over here. At the headboard bookcase above my bed, I had my general genre fiction and nonfiction. Over here was classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama, which was basically the headboard, the wall shelf up here, this bookcase here, and into this bookcase here, with some science fiction and fantasy in that far bookcase over there, and that bookcase right there. Although the bulk of my science fiction and fantasy collection were contained in the Boxes of Exile. Late last year, I really took a look at my science fiction and fantasy collection and decided that I probably could do without most of them. So I boxed them up to see how I would react. And so I had some boxes over along this far wall here and out in the hall. Since my library tour concluded, I picked up 2 more bookcases, and that allowed me to change up some things. So basically how my library looks right now is that the cookbooks and the art and writing books are still where they are. The general genre fiction and nonfiction have been moved to a little small bookcase that's on top of my dresser out in the hall. I would like to do something more with that, and I'll get to that in a bit. Classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama. I really need to come up with a better way of saying that, but it is what it is. I moved from here to a big bookcase in the hall, which is where they were last year. I liberated the science fiction and fantasy from the Boxes of Exile and put them on this bookcase here, that one there, and the one behind me, and over at my brother's bookcase. I moved my manga to the headboard, or to the long bookcase here, the wall shelf, and this bookcase here, with the intent that eventually I will also move manga to the wall shelf over my bed. And of course, the history wall has remained unchanged, except that it has 2 new bookcases. And instead of that one big one that I moved into the hall, it's got 2 right now. So I'm happy with how it looks, although with how my collection looks, although I do want to change some things. I know last week I did 3 videos in which I discuss donating a small portion of my collection to a local Friends at the Library book sale. And I'm still going to do that. But that doesn't mean I'm in a contracting mood for my collection. I'm not. I'm very much in an expansionist phase. I've got about 1490, no, not 14. I have 1,398 books in my collection. Because I just got one in today, so it'll be 1,398. So I'm 2 away from 1,400, which I'm kind of excited about. So even though, of course, that number will go down once I finally do donate those boxes of books, but whenever that happens. So I'm actually in an expansionist phase. I want more books, not less. But I don't have the space for them at the moment. Like right now, I don't have any space for my writing books or art books unless I put them like transwise. I think that's when you have like a row of books and then you put books on top of that row. But I don't have any space for my writing and art books. Nor do I have space for classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, drama, science fiction, and fantasy. Well, I kind of do now that I've put some of them into donation boxes, but which I actually need to work on, kind of consolidating them at some point. And general genre fiction and general nonfiction, they're pretty maxed out. So really the only areas of my collection that I can really expand are my cookbooks. And that's to a small extent, although I'm going to try to rein in my cookbook buying. Because the space I have for my cookbooks, that's it. I'm not going to finagle any more space for them. What they have, that's it. I have quite a bit more space for manga, because I've got about this bookcase here is like the last shelf is about halfway filled, and then I've got 2 empty shelves here plus this little space. I have some space on my headboard bookcase left, and of course the wall shelf above my bed is completely free. Well, I guess maybe I could move like the general nonfiction there. And then history, I have practically an entire bookcase free. I mean, there's some books beginning to take over that last bookcase, but for the most part, it's an open bookcase. So, yeah. But I think what I'm wanting to do, even though I do want to expand my collection, I think I'm also in a mood to sort of contract certain parts of it. Because I think I talked about, maybe I didn't. But I do want to expand like the bookish space in my collection. I would like to try to get as many bookcases in the hall as I can. So my library, except for the cookbooks, is basically confined to my bedroom and hall space immediately in front of my bedroom. So what I would like to do is try to maximize and get as many bookcases as I can. And so really the only way I can do that now is in the hall. I could get maybe 1 or 2 bookcases once I switch out my dresser, and I could switch out or replace my desk with 2 bookcases, and then that probably would be it. So I think I would like to have maybe about 2,000-ish books in my collection. I'm pretty sure, like what I have right now, I can get about 1,500, maybe a bit more, depending. I mean, the manga don't take up much space, so. But I would like to about 2,000 eventually, and then stop there, and then sort to weed as needed. But I do want to sort of emphasize different things. So, like classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama. As much as I sometimes have these urges to focus on that set of books, it never really ends well. I mean, when they were here, my intention eventually was this was going to be a classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama wall. And really a bookcase. Even though that is a large area, really a bookcase, because even though I do occasionally get onto these benders, they never last. They never work out. So I really should not be hoarding or holding on to those books. I mean, if they don't really work for me, then why keep them? I might regret it later and want to pick them up again, and that would be okay. But they really shouldn't be languishing in my collection. And as I've been thinking about them and my science fiction fantasy collection, which has been, and I think still is to an extent, the largest part of my collection, I want to downsize science fiction and fantasy to 2 bookcases. So, because again, so many of my science fiction and fantasy books and my classics, canonical, modern, contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama, they've been languishing for years. Many of them for over a decade. I really need to clear them out. Even those that I've read and really liked, but I haven't come back to in 10 years, if not more, closer to 15. I mean, and I really want to, I think, focus more on the books that are pleasing me now. So I think what I would like to do eventually is get as many, like 1 or 2 more bookcases in the hall, depending how things work out. And then that would be where the classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama would be, along with general genre fiction. Science fiction and fantasy would be basically this bookcase here, although I would probably want to move it to this wall. And so this bookcase here and this one here would basically, that would just be science fiction and fantasy. So consolidate them down to basically 2 bookcases. The manga would be here, here. If I got any box sets or something, probably those would be on top of the science fiction shelves. And I think I would expand the manga here to this area where my desk is currently, so that this whole area would be manga. And then I would move the bookcase that's right there to where that bookcase is right now. On one side would be, I guess, general nonfiction, although I'm thinking more science books on that shelf. And then on the other side, alongside the bookcase that my brother built, would be an extension of the history wall. So it would be a much larger thing. So I think that's kind of what I want to do, although I might change my mind, because I do change my mind rather frequently. And I'm kind of excited for that, although it's going to be a years-long project, and of course, if something changes, I will probably have to adapt, and I'll see how that goes. But I think for now, that's what I want to do. So I think as far as like downsizing, I'm like, it's weeding out. I want to hold on to the books that I really want to hold on to, but I think a lot of like my science fiction and fantasy collection and my classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama collection, I think they can be downsized. But I'm not going to do it all at once. It's going to be, I think, a slow process, particularly if actually weeding them out and sending them on their way is going to be as time consuming as it currently seems to be. So anyway, okay, so this video actually did work. So I will be uploading it, so there won't be a library tag or something, because what I was thinking of doing was making it sort of like a Q&A, where I would ask questions about my library and then answer them and see, like, give it a bit of structure. But this seemed to work pretty well, so I won't be doing that. Although I guess maybe I can try to figure out a way to do that with book prizes. Let's see how that will shape up. So new book tip, that's all I got for now. I have a new book I need to add to my catalog, so I'll go ahead and do that while I upload this. And I also need to try to print something off of this computer because my printer is acting up, which, yeah, anyway. So until I see you tomorrow with a new video, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.